lot of balls up in the air, and Unai seems to be the guy who can keep those balls up in the air and keep moving the right people into the right positions.
Do you dare dream of another return to Wembley in the final come the end of May?
I do. I see a very, very direct path to the final.
Wow, wow. I mean, that is a confident Villa fan. As always, Brian, it's always a pleasure having you on. And obviously, you've got PSG in the Champions League before that. So come the end of April, you could well be into the Champions League semi-finals as your players walk out at Wembley.
Absolute heaven. I am preparing myself mentally each and every day for that eventuality.
We will get you back on Sports World, no doubt, when that happens as well, because we will be at Wembley for that FA Cup semi-final weekend. Brian, pleasure having you with us. Go and enjoy the rest of your day, because it's not even 8 o'clock in the morning in San Francisco, so enjoy your day.
I will go celebrate with the rest of my California Lions Club supporter pals.
I love it, absolutely. Congratulate them all as well. What a day Brian Bond has in store there. Villa supporter from San Francisco. Gab, George, gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful to be in San Francisco right now?
Amazing. No, it will be good. It will be good.
Just thinking of the number of times Gav has been there. I'll be happy to be there.
I'll be happy to. I spent part of my honeymoon in San Francisco. Absolutely beautiful city. The whole California is absolutely amazing. Yeah, wow, what a lineup though. Forest against Bournemouth, Manchester City, Palace against Aston Villa, and we'll be there at Wembley. As I say, TBC, to be decided. Which match will be on which day, but we've got a great lineup for the FA Cup semi-finals, Gab. And you don't want any more, really, do you? I mean, you've got four. Whoever makes it through in this later game today, you've got 4 top-quality Premier League sides competing.
Exactly, and also you've got so much history there to just new history to be written. So it's really appetizing this year. You know, we spoke about the FA Cup being prestigious, and obviously Brian there has said how important it is from across the Atlantic. So it is something that's still followed, and for me, I'm looking at this and I can't really work out any way it goes, it will still be magical. Absolutely.
He also said, great question to you. Didn't say that to any of my questions, which means I'm a bit nervous now. You're going to be in this seat come next Sunday, Gab.
I've already applied for it.
I'll remember that, not getting you on again. No, pleasure having you as always, Gabriel Zakuani. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and we'll chat soon, okay?
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Gabriel Zakuani there, former DR Congo captain. Always a joy having him on Sports World. George Addo, you're staying with me as well, because the other side of the news, we've got all matters in European football to discuss. We'll chat all topics in Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, Ligue 1 as well. We've got an extended Eurostars on the way. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Sports World. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. Rebel groups in Myanmar say the military continues to carry out airstrikes despite condemnation from the UN. There have also been calls for it to halt operations in the wake of Friday's earthquake, which has left at least 1,700 people dead. Rebecca Henschke reports.
The People's Defence Forces, a network of pro-democracy civilian militias, says the military carried out a helicopter attack in the Magway region, close to the epicentre of the quake. There are also reports of military airstrikes in the Kachin state near the China border. Singapore has called for an immediate ceasefire in the civil war. Its Foreign Minister, Vivian Balakrishnan, said the country was in a life-or-death period and that the military that seized power in a coup 4 years ago must focus on saving lives.
Thailand's Deputy Prime Minister says rescue teams are still detecting signs of life beneath the rubble of a Bangkok skyscraper which collapsed during the quake, but that the signals are weak. Antonin Chanwirakun said it would indicate those trapped are unable to move or take deep breaths. Thai authorities say 18 people have now died in Bangkok, most of them in the building collapse. Nick Marsh is at the site.
Rescue workers still very much trying to move these huge concrete pillars, these metal girders. There's around, 6, 7 massive diggers, a couple of cranes. We've been here for around 48 hours. We haven't seen anyone come out, be that bodies or any survivors.
President Trump is reported to have told US media he's very angry his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, has questioned the credibility of the Ukrainian leader, Volodymyr Zelensky. Mr. Trump told NBC he planned to speak to Mr. Putin this week. He's threatened to impose secondary tariffs on Russian oil exports if peace is not secured in Ukraine, and he deemed it to be Moscow's fault. Mr. Trump's attempts to secure even a very limited ceasefire in the Black Sea have been thwarted by Moscow Moscow's insistence that sanctions be lifted. The Sudanese paramilitary commander has admitted his rapid support forces have been driven from the capital Khartoum. The army claimed to have taken the city on Wednesday. Julian Bedford reports.
This confirmation of defeat leaves the RSF all but penned back in its heartlands of southern and western Sudan, and the country divided in two. After nearly 2 years of civil war, there's little prospect of peace. On Saturday, the army leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, vowed to fight on until the last rebel had been eradicated from the last corner of Sudan. The cost has been extraordinary. Estimates of the number of dead range from 20,000 to 150,000.
A Sudanese rights group says more than 50,000 people have disappeared in the fighting. You're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. The Israeli Prime Minister says his government's continued military pressure on Hamas has been effective. Benjamin Netanyahu said cracks were beginning to appear in Hamas's demands in negotiations following the collapse of a fragile truce earlier this month, which saw Israel resuming airstrikes and its ground offensive in Gaza. He said the strategy was proving successful.
Regarding Hamas in Gaza, military pressure is working. It's effective because it operates on two fronts simultaneously. On one hand, it crushes Hamas's military and governing capabilities, and on the other, it creates the conditions for the release of our hostages.
Palestinian health officials say nearly 1,000 people have been killed since then. Mr. Netanyahu's office announced on Saturday it had received a proposal from mediators for a resumption of the ceasefire and submitted its own counter-proposal. Hamas is said to have agreed to the plan. Separately, Mr. Netanyahu's office also says he'll travel to Hungary next week, defying an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. The ICC issued the warrant in November over allegations of war crimes in Gaza, which Israel dismissed as false. During the visit, that'll begin on Wednesday, Mr. Netanyahu will hold talks with his Hungarian counterpart, Viktor Orban. An attempt to launch a rocket into space from continental Europe has failed. The rocket crashed some 40 seconds after blasting off from a spaceport in the Norwegian Arctic. The German company involved, Isar Aerospace, downplayed the failure, saying the test had gathered valuable data and experience for future missions. Reports from Nepal say the security team deployed at the residence of the former king, Gyanendra Shah, has been cut by a third, 2 days after pro-monarchy protests turned violent. He's also been fined nearly $6,000 for offences said to include vandalisation of fire engines. On Sunday, reporters wore black armbands in memory of a video journalist killed by royalist protesters. One demonstrator was reportedly shot dead by police.